Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for this interview to the Greek public television. The whole planet is watching closely to see what major changes will arise under the elected President Donald Trump. Should we expect any shifts in the U.S. policy towards Southeastern Europe? What will be the relationship between the United States, Greece, and Turkey?
Well, generally, I can't answer what President Trump is trying to do, but I think history is a fairly accurate guidepost. The president-elect had been president for 4 years, and very specifically with Greece, the relationship had strengthened and deepened under President Trump. And I think the president-elect and his team, and I think he has an outstanding choice in Secretary nominee Rubio, who understands the region very well, and I think understands the importance of the U.S.-Greek bilateral relationship and the role that Greece plays in NATO and as a stability provider in the region. So I believe that the relationship between the United States will continue to strengthen and deepen.
There are discussions in Washington that the Trump administration might hand over the European security to Europe. Prime Minister Mitsotakis mentioned that in an interview to CNN. Is Europe ready for the next steps?
Well, I think that Russia's invasion of Ukraine was a huge wake-up call to Europe. I think the peace dividend with the falling of the Berlin Wall was taken for granted by a lot of countries, especially Northern European countries that are now scrambling to meet their Wales pledge. Whereas a lot of countries in Europe have a niche military, Greece has a full-blown military with full capabilities. They have met their Wales pledge, and they spend over 3% of GDP on their military. Now, having said that, and I think there needs to be increased burden sharing amongst all of the 32 NATO allies, the United States spends $900 billion a year on its military. And we have an expectation, I think a realistic expectation, that other countries will act more like the United States and Greece and pay their fair share of NATO's obligations.
Some people suggest that the next U.S. ambassador to Greece might be a Greek American, like your appointment. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this idea to have an American ambassador to Greece, a member of the Greek diaspora?
Well, you know, this has been an honor of a lifetime. I'm the son of Dimitris and Elenis Tsounis, από Πλάτανο, Ουρηνία Ναυπακτίας. And it was an honor for me to serve as the U.S. ambassador here. And I think it'd be wonderful if the tradition continued and Greece would be more like Ireland or Italy, where the U.S. ambassadors are overwhelmingly someone from their diaspora, because that speaks about the stability of Greece, and it speaks about the strength of the U.S. Greek relationship, and candidly, the closeness of the relationship. But I've known many of the U.S. ambassadors in Greece. They've overwhelmingly been career people. And I know many ambassadors, both career and political appointees, that have done some good work. I'm looking forward to who my replacement will be. I'm looking forward to helping them to the extent that I can or I'm needed. But I anticipate that the next U.S. ambassador, whoever that might be, is stepping into a country that understands that the U.S. believes that Greece is its most essential ally in the region, and not dissimilar to the one that I inherited from my predecessor, Ambassador Payet, who did outstanding work here in his 6 years as ambassador.
The ties between Greece and the United States are stronger than ever. Could you share some specific examples of collaboration initiatives that took place during your time in Greece?
I think amongst all pillars, education, there has been a drastic uptick in the amount of U.S. students that are studying in Greece. We have had 3 Pharos summits. So we had the largest delegation of U.S. universities in the history of international education that have come to Greece. It was 30 universities that made collaborations in terms of joint degrees, dual degrees, and you continue to see more Greek students studying in the U.S. and more U.S. students studying in Greece. Foreign direct investment is significantly higher, as you've had companies like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Pfizer, Chubb, all make huge investments in Greece. And I think the cooperation that we have military to military is also at an all-time high. The U.S. recognizes that Greece is an essential partner in all things, and that it is essential to securing NATO's southeastern flank. So I'm very proud of the excess articles contributions that the U.S. military has made to the Greek military and the ongoing cooperation that the 2 countries have in this field.
How you would describe your cooperation with the Prime Minister Mitsotakis' government?
Look, I'm grateful to the Mitsotakis government. I think the 2 of us have a close personal relationship because I think the Prime Minister understands that relationships that are based on values and principles are the ones that are enduring. I have never seen the Mitsotakis government act in a transactional nature. I have always seen them act with values and principles. And, you know, this concept is not lost on me, it's not lost on our government. The foundational principles that the United States was formed under, principles of democracy and these freedoms that are inalienable, they were founded right here in ancient Athens. And I think that both of our countries understand that Greece and the United States have an obligation, a sacred obligation to safeguard democracy. So I'm very grateful that my 3 years here have been one where the relationship has strengthened, but cooperation amongst all issues have been one that I think has helped both countries. We have a commonality of interest in addition to a commonality of values.
What are your thoughts on the current talks between Greece and Turkey over the Aegean? Do you think Ankara and Greece could find common ground?
Well, I think Ankara and Greece are finding common ground. Now, common ground is sort of a general concept. I always remind people that Turkey and Greece have lived side by side for millenniums, and I think understand each other better than we do. We encourage both of our allies to work out any differences through diplomatic and peaceful means. I sometimes don't understand why people might take issue with my answer that we encourage both our allies to sit down and work out their differences through diplomatic and peaceful means. What is the alternative? This is the premise of any relationship. It is the cornerstone of diplomacy. Ankara and Athens have outstanding diplomats, and we encourage diplomats to be able to do the work of securing prosperity, stability, and peace for their region, but both of their countries. That's in everyone's best interest.
As your time in Greece coming close to an end, what do you consider the most rewarding time during the 3 years in Athens?
You know, it's hard to pinpoint one. You know, generally speaking, to be able to serve my country, you know, my parents came from the United States, couldn't speak the language, poor, my dad an orphan. They were able to achieve the American dream in the United States. They worked hard. When I was born, my dad was a waiter, my mom was a seamstress. I was able to get a public school education, build a business, and be able to serve my country. And what I love about the United States is it is the land of opportunity and possibility. And I see Greece emerging from a huge crisis, that Greece has not only has an economy that is stabilized, but is one of the fastest growing in Europe, and is increasingly providing opportunity and possibility for more and more of its citizens. If I can point to a single moment, though, it would be the opening of the Athinas shipyard. We put $125 million in opening up that shipyard. U.S. companies, Onyx and Cisco, opened up Syros shipyard and Elefsina shipyard. And it went from a couple of hundred employees that mainly had part-time work and servicing a couple of ships a year, to now they're servicing a couple of hundred ships a year. And we have 1,900 people that are working on its way to 8,300 in the next couple of years. This not only means economic prosperity, it not only means a couple of $1 billion in GDP to Greece, but most importantly, people are being able to put food on the table. It means the dignity, the ennoblement of a working person who's able to take care of their family in a life-sustaining job. When I walked through Elefsinas, and I went through that shipyard 6 or 7 times, and I've talked to the workers, they told me, "Έχουμε ελπίδα, we have hope." And I saw firsthand how the efforts of the U.S. Embassy, our investment, Minister Georgiadis, Minister Skrekas, Minister Todakakis, I got to work with 3 outstanding ministers. The work that we did had tangible benefits on the Greek economy, but people.
On the other hand, what is the biggest challenge you faced as the United States ambassador in Greece, and how did you deal with it?
Look, I think there's been several challenges in the region. We have an ongoing war in Ukraine, where in 2022, a European country was invaded, and a country's territorial lines are being attempted to be changed by force. This is not behavior we have seen since World War II. We have an ongoing crisis in Gaza. That's created a lot of stresses in Europe. We had supply chain issues. We had global inflation. Greece has had to deal with devastating fires and floods. And there are times that the relationship with Turkey was not as stable as it is today. And, you know, I came here right after the COVID crisis. The United States, Europe, and Greece have had to deal with these threats, and I commend the Greek government. You know, I think they handled these tasks admirably.
Let's go back to the Greek-American relations. What are the key areas for Greece and the United States to work together, especially in defense and energy?
If you look at the region, Greece is a pillar of stability surrounded by arcs of instability. Its location is around 3 choke points, Gibraltar, the Straits, and the Suez Canal. And if you look at the region, whether it's the Balkans to the north, to the south, challenges in Lebanon and Gaza and Syria and Libya, and further south, if you look at the crisis that's going on in South Sudan and other places, and migration flows that have come for years through Turkey, but now coming through Libya and Egypt. Greece is, you know, at the front door of Europe. So there are these challenges. You know, we understand as Greece's partner here that they have challenges with that we need to help them with their Coast Guard, that there are instabilities that surround them, and that we need to make sure for NATO interoperability that Greece's military is strong and capable, and we're helping build those capacities, whether through excess articles or sales. But the amount of joint training and joint exercises that we do are at a very, very, very high level. I mentioned NATO interoperability. Greece is the one who anchors NATO's southeastern flank. Greece is going to be the country in the region that has the F-35s. So they are our most trusted partner in the region. We will continue to build that relationship, military to military, because it is a huge U.S. interest to make sure that Greece is strong. From an energy point of view, I had a fireside chat with the U.S. Chamber yesterday, and I said we should not be advising Greece on energy, they should be advising us. They are a top 10 country in the world on renewables. They have expanded Evithusa. They had an existing infrastructure. They built an FSRU in Alexandroupoli. So Greece has the ability to not only take care of its own energy needs, but be a net exporter all the time by practicing energy diversification, energy transition, and decarbonization. I mean, they are best practices in all of it. We want to continue to work with Greece to increase storage capacity, to interconnect their islands to the electrical grid, to support the Great Sea Interconnector, and to build out a vertical corridor which will provide Europe with an alternative to Gazprom, which I think is in everyone's best interest. Competition is a good thing. You don't want to be overly reliant on one entity or one country for your energy needs.
Mm-hmm. Would you share some examples of for potential business opportunities and investments in Greece?
Sure. Greece has the single most important thing to a capital allocator. I was not a professional diplomat. I came from the corporate world. They have a highly educated workforce. We have discovered that. So there's a tremendous amount of connectivity that's going on in Greece. Data centers that will service not only Greece, but the Middle East and countries to the north. Digital, AI. We see connectivity in the energy field as well, and in the renewables, green energy. I'm so proud and so impressed with the Greek shipping industry, which for a country of 10.4 million people has probably 20% of the deadweight tonnage in the world. 90% of the global economy moves on a ship. And Greece is providing leadership in this field, not only in helping the global economy and helping deal with supply chain issues, but also in decarbonizing their fleet and making it more efficient. Greece is one of the leaders in the tourism industry, and I think there's a real effort to make it more sustainable. An economy that was once on the verge of bankruptcy, where it was difficult to find a job, it's now difficult to find someone to work. Now, these are challenges, but they're high-class problems. I use the example of the Greek shipping industry, where they access the U.S. capital markets for growth. There are 29 Greek shipping companies that are on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. So this is where Greek companies and the U.S. capital markets have worked hand in hand to grow and to prosper in both countries. We see now that we're working on the co-production of the Constellation, the latest frigate, which will be built in Greece. And this is another area of cooperation which was not only strengthen each other's military capabilities, but will provide jobs and prosperity to Greece. There's a lot of opportunities here. Greece's 10-year treasury is well below the U.S. and now below Italy, Spain, and France. It's within 80 basis points of Germany. They've achieved investment grade in their sovereign debt. So when I have said for years, οι καλύτερες μέρες είναι μπροστά σας, the best days of Greece are in front of us, I truly believe it, because they've not only turned the corner on an economy that's growing and growing probably 3 times the rate of the Euro zone. I think there is an ecosystem of entrepreneurship that has been released that, if it continues, will provide tangible benefits in the makings of a modern, vibrant 21st century economy.
In a personal note now, you know, personally, American presidents, a lot of American presidents, and you work with them, but you have a special relationship with President Biden. Could you share some thoughts about your special relationship with the American president?
I don't know of a person with more personal empathy than President Biden. It was an honor to be selected by him to be the ambassador. He's a friend for 20 years. He has someone who I have grown to respect and care for, and I thought he was an outstanding president. President Biden understands Greece and loves Greece. I saw him last Friday at the White House for dinner, and he's eagerly looking forward to making a post-presidency trip and spending time in Greece.
Your parents come from a small village, Platanos, in Nafpaktos, your wife from Lamia, Olga Julis. How has your background influenced your perspective on opportunity and the American dream?
You know, it reminds me of something my mother used to tell me when I didn't want to go to Greek school on Saturday. And she says, you know, one day you will thank me for being able to speak Greek. And she was absolutely right. As a U.S. ambassador, I understand my role here. It is to advocate for U.S. principles and U.S. values and U.S. interests. I was very fortunate because I served here at a time when anti-Americanism has largely dissipated, and that U.S. values and U.S. principles and U.S. interests have aligned with Greek values and principles and interest. But I do think that, you know, growing up as someone in the Greek American community and being very, very active in the community and spending my summers in the village, I knew a little bit more about Greece and the Greek people and the Greek ethos. So I think it helped me. It doesn't mean that someone who's not Greek American can't be a very effective ambassador here, but I think being that you asked a question very specific to me, I think it was incredibly helpful.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for this interview to the Greek public television.
Finis, it's always a pleasure to be with you.